Hi, I'm Johnny Seago. Welcome to another segment of Be Remarkable, where Emily Graham Lewis and I take you on the journey with us to become more remarkable every week. This week, our word of the week is influence. And this week, we want to focus on the 5 most influential people in your life. Now, Jim Rohn tells us that we are the sum of the 5 most influential people in our lives, okay? And sometimes that's the people that we spend the most time with, and sometimes that's the people that we've spent the most time with in the past. So I want to share with you my 5 remarkable people who've influenced me, and then I want you to comment with your 5 people too, okay? My 5 people are my dad, my husband, my mentor getting my master's degree, my mentor getting my educational doctorate, and one of my 5 daughters. So let me start with my dad. So my dad was by far the most influential leader in my life whenever I was young. And he still influences me today, even though he's no longer with me. I remember the story of whenever I was about 15, 16 years old. And I had a fairly new stepmother and 2 new stepbrothers. And we were all sort of in that teenage-ish years. So my stepmother was a great cook, and she fixed breakfast for us every morning. But because we left for school very early, my brothers and I would get to the breakfast table pretty grumpy and just kind of not so into the day. We barely said thank you. We barely spoke at all, period. Well, one night I'm practicing my piano, and my dad comes and sits down on the piano bench. And he says, "Johnny, Catherine, I live in the South where middle names are essential." So he says, "Johnny, Catherine, I've been wanting to talk to you about breakfast." I'm like, "Sure, Dad, it's great. We get a great breakfast every morning." And he goes, "Yeah. So I think that whenever you come in and you're so grumpy and you have a bad attitude, I think it sets a bad course for the day for all of the rest of us." What? I'm like 15, 16 years old. How in the world am I that influential? But if my dad said it, I believed it. Sure enough, the next morning, I get out of bed, I get dressed, put on my jeans, put on my shoes, right? But before I open that door to go to breakfast, I put on my happy face. I put on my good attitude. And I walked out there and said, "Good morning," and tried to thank my stepmother for making breakfast and tried to be as remarkable as my dad was depending on me to be. Pretty influential, right? The next guy is a guy who came into my life pretty early, and that's my husband, Ted. He came into my life when I was 12 years old. Don't make any comments there, okay? And he began influencing me pretty soon after that. One way Ted influences me every day is through his loyalty. Anybody that knows will know Ted is extremely loyal to the people that he has led through being a pastor for the past 40 years, being a dad to 8 kids, and now being a granddaddy to 16. Loyalty. You'll never find anybody more loyal than Ted Seago. The next man that was so influential in my life was my mentor when I was getting my master's degree. I'd been an educator for some time, but my mentor really influenced me to fall in love with my students, not just my subject. And that has really changed the course of my educational career. So I am forever grateful to my mentor for influencing me that way. The next person who influenced me was again a mentor, and this time in my educational doctorate. From the moment I stepped on the campus of Liberty University, she began influencing me. She latched on to me and just really poured into my life and showed me that I had worth into what I had been doing for the past 25 years. She encouraged me to change my subjects of my dissertation from the women's colleges where I had been studying back to my first love, which was my homeschool families and how they were creating leaders in their home. That made a huge difference, not just in my dissertation, not just in my research studies, but also in my future and in what I'm doing now, and that I'm finding leadership in every home. It's been phenomenal influence. Lastly, I'm going to do what no mother should ever do, and I'm going to point to one of my 8 children. And the reason that I say she is so influential is because she was the firstborn. She was the one that made me a mommy. You see, Rochelle changed all of my attitudes about being a mother. When I went to the hospital to deliver her, I already had a nanny lined up. I was planning on going back to work after 2 weeks, just like all my friends did. But instead, the moment that I saw her, I looked at my husband and said, "This changes everything." And she did. She opened up my heart to not only love her and be devoted to her, but to be devoted to 3 older siblings that she didn't have at the moment, but were soon to appear through the magic of adoption, and then 4 younger siblings. So she influenced me as a person and as a mother. You've got such remarkable stories about people that have influenced you. We'd love to hear them. So post them below, either on the YouTube link and subscribe and follow us, or on the Facebook post. Make sure that you give us your 5 influential people. We'd love to encourage and applaud them and encourage you in your journey to be more remarkable.